Hey beautiful people, my name's Brittany and today I'm going to be sharing about Thailand versus Costa Rica and comparing some main categories of living that one may be interested in hearing about if they are wanting to travel to either of these places or to live there more specifically. To give you a little bit of background, I'm currently in Costa Rica. I'm living in the Central Valley, kind of up in the mountains. So in the Central Valley, there's Alajuela, Heredia, and San Jose. And when I used to live here, about 10 years ago, I lived in Heredia, but I lived more like in the city. And now I'm living up the mountain like 15 minutes. So it's a more secluded area. But overall, when I talk about Costa Rica, I'm going to be talking about this Central Valley area. That feels important to mention. And then Thailand, when I talk about Thailand, I'm going to be specifically talking about Chiang Mai, Thailand, because that's really the only area that I've spent significant amounts of time in. I've been going to Chiang Mai for the past 4 years, I think it is, and living there for 2 to 3 months a year. And here in Costa Rica as well, when I've been living here, it's been anywhere from 2 months to a year at a time. I wrote down a lot of categories I want to cover because they're all important to me in terms of living. I've got my list here if you're curious what I'm referring to. So I'm just going to get right into it, and I hope that there are categories that resonate with you or are helpful if you're trying to make this sort of decision. So the first category is food. And I'm going to separate that into markets and then eating out. I would say the availability of the type of food I'm looking for in both of these places is off the hook awesome, especially in terms of fresh fruit and produce in general. The markets here are amazing. In the Central Valley of Costa Rica, there is the Feria in Alajuela, which is my favorite. It's going on Fridays and Saturdays. I think it's the best market, the best fruit market I've ever been to in the world, and it's got all sorts of produce there. And then in Chiang Mai, Thailand, there's Muang Mai Market, and there's a ton of other markets throughout the city. I live near Chiang Mai Gate when I live there, and I really enjoy Chiang Mai Gate Market. And then again, in Costa Rica here, each town has like plenty of little markets with great fresh produce. So I would say the availability of that and the type of amazing fruit and greens and veggies that I'm looking for is totally available in both places. The cost, I would say, is pretty comparable actually when I'm buying, especially from those bigger markets that are more like wholesale markets. Thailand might be a tiny bit cheaper. In terms of eating out, I don't tend to eat out much in Costa Rica at all, mostly because I don't feel like they have the kind of food that I'm looking for. So I like to eat a plant-based diet and a really simple diet, mostly just fruit during the day and then a salad at night. In Thailand, in Chiang Mai, Thailand, there are a ridiculous number of plant-based restaurants where you can get amazing salads and dressings and smoothies and all other types of plant-based food, cooked food, etc. And it's really affordable, and there's a ton of restaurants. I think it's like one of the vegan capitals of the world for food and eating out. Costa Rica, not so much, but there are definitely some plant-based restaurants. I've only tried one, and it was like more complex food than I would really want to eat and more expensive. So I'd say in terms of eating out food, Chiang Mai for the win by a lot. Again, there are still options in Costa Rica. I've never explored there. Okay, accommodations. I like to book things through Airbnb, especially, well, like here in Costa Rica, there are a lot of properties through Airbnb. There probably are actually through in Chiang Mai as well. It's just that I have a place that I love staying there. It's way cheaper in Thailand, in my experience. I think that Connor and I spend $350, something like that, on the apartment we stay in Thailand per month. And this place, we're renting a house in Costa Rica. We got an amazing deal on it, and it was like $800 a month or something like that. So I think Thailand's way cheaper. You can also spend something like $100 to $200 and get a nice place in Thailand. The internet. Ooh, internet in both places is less ideal than the United States, for example. The internet speed is definitely slower, and I think it's the thing that's particularly hard for me about Costa Rica internet, and I thought maybe it would be different coming back this time because it's been like a long time since I've lived here, but it's still kind of like shoddy. You don't know, the internet might just go out or be slow for no reason. And in Thailand, I feel like there's some of that as well. If I had to say, if I had to pick one, I'd say that Thailand has a little bit more reliable internet, but they're both kind of rough. I can definitely make it work, but it's like, I don't want to schedule Skype video calls, for example, and I always have this underlying feeling like, I might be in the middle of a coaching session and the internet might go out. Uploading videos, kind of rough. Okay, the climate. The climate where I am, a little bit up the mountain in Costa Rica, is really refreshing. I just want to say the words in Spanish. It's really refreshing, and it's not too hot. It's a little chilly for me actually, but I'm pretty far up the mountain. In general, I'd say the climate in Costa Rica, especially in the Central Valley, is just beautiful and perfect. It's really what I'm looking for. It's like, I don't know, maybe like 60s at night, and then during the day in the 70s and 80s. Thailand, similar thing in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So both the climates are really similar. I like them both. I feel like Costa Rica is a little more fresh. Chiang Mai, of course, is a city. If I were living in more of a city, maybe San Jose wouldn't feel as fresh. But in general, I feel like the Costa Rican air is fresher than the Chiang Mai, Thailand air. So that was kind of my next thing, was air quality. I think air quality here in Costa Rica is way better, and also water quality. We are on a property that has a river running through it, and there's fresh springs coming up from the river, so we could literally go drink from one of those springs, but the water that we're getting is also sourced from the same place. So the water quality is amazing. Can drink it right from the tap, and it feels like some of the best water I've ever had. In Thailand, I get water from the machines, and it's okay. It's not great. You definitely don't want to drink the tap water there. So air quality, water quality, climate, I almost feel like Costa Rica wins a little bit. In the city in Chiang Mai, especially once burning season starts, which is like maybe February, end of January, you can start to feel it. The air quality gets particularly bleh, and most people go down south. The community is so important to me, and I think everybody's community and what they're looking for around that is a little bit different. For me, I mean, I'm looking for open-minded, loving, awesome people. I love to engage with people who like to do movement, so I'm often looking for an Acro community too. Plant-based living is important to me, but I don't just have to be connecting with people who live that lifestyle, but I have noticed that a lot of the people I engage with are people that I've met at different fruit festivals around the world, or other intentional living communities of some sort. And in that realm, I would say that Chiang Mai just takes the cake. There are so many beautiful, loving people who go to Chiang Mai for the plant-based food, or for a massage course, or because they want to do some sort of meditation retreat. It definitely attracts people who are more spiritual, are more love-based, people who want to live intentionally. Costa Rica has that too, for sure. This is where I think I'm a little bit limited in my opinion around this. Like I said, have lived in the Central Valley. There's not a lot of foreigners where I've lived. Yeah, few foreigners. And I think that there are other areas in Costa Rica. There's like this one area I'm thinking of particularly, there's Farm of Life there. There's a lot of people who have farms, people who do woofing and like eat a plant-based diet, live off of the land, etc. And that area, among I'm sure a couple of other areas in Costa Rica, have more community. But in terms of having like some sort of a town or city where I feel like there's a big community, that's definitely Chiang Mai takes the win by a lot. Same thing with Acro. Chiang Mai has a great Acro community, especially when I go in like December and January of the year, because it's a beautiful time of year to be there climate wise. And I think a lot of people have time off that time of year too. So there's a great Acro community there. Here in Costa Rica, Acro community, not so much. There are definitely some people doing Acro retreats at different times and more like Acro yoga. But in terms of the type of acrobatics I like to practice, there isn't a great community for that. There is, however, a cheer community. I met them when I was traveling here some years ago with my Acro partner. We met these awesome people who do cheer, like cheerleading, amazing lifts, etc., stunts, and that was in Alajuela. Travel and getting around. Ease of travel and cost of travel, I would say Chiang Mai I've found to be easier. You can rent a bicycle, you can rent a motorbike, you can take songtaos, which are like collective taxis around the city for like next to nothing in cost. You can Uber there now, which is super cheap. In Costa Rica, in the areas I'm living, you can take buses, which run not super frequently, but frequently enough, maybe every half hour, every hour. You can get Ubers. Ubers are happening here now. I've been getting around by Uber a lot, and they're great. They just cost more than Thailand, but definitely cost less than they do in the US. If you want to go, oh, you can also take taxis, local taxis. If you want to go further, you can take buses or like private buses. You can fly places, but there aren't a ton of options there. That's kind of similar in Thailand if you want to go further. You can take trains, buses, planes. I think overall, I've just found that probably, again, given that it's like more of a condensed area in Chiang Mai, getting around is much easier. And things like renting a car or a motorbike or a bicycle, all that's a lot easier than I feel like it is here in Costa Rica. Again, if I were in a beach town in Costa Rica, yeah, it's so much easier to rent a bicycle, for example. But it's not a very touristy area where I am, so it's a little more challenging. And then people I do know who live in more like community areas in Costa Rica, they're more isolated. So again, trying to travel around the country is gonna be a little harder. Also, Costa Rica is a lot smaller than Thailand, and there's a ton of protected land. So there just aren't a ton of options of roads to travel on. So when you do take a bus around the country to get, say, from the capital to a beach or to the hot springs or volcano, it just takes a while. And part of that is because the land is protected, which is a beautiful thing, but it takes longer. Thailand, I think it's like pretty easy and cheap to fly from, say, Chiang Mai to Bangkok. And again, there are like more options like trains and buses. Both places have incredibly beautiful areas to visit. Waterfalls and jungle and beaches. They're both incredible countries with a lot of diversity. I'd say overall, I think Costa Rica has a little more diversity, especially for how small it is. And I'm not gonna say it's more beautiful because they're both so beautiful in different ways, but yeah, I mean, you can't compare that. They're just different, but both equally as beautiful and offer a lot in terms of things to see. Safety is an interesting thing to evaluate. People ask me a lot about safety, especially when I was traveling a lot alone, on my own, as a female traveler traveling on her own. I've always felt really safe all the places that I've traveled. So I'd say I feel really safe in Costa Rica. I feel really safe in Chiang Mai. I think that Chiang Mai's safer. I think a big part of that is the Buddhist culture and how sweet and caring people are there. I've seen a number of situations where somebody has left something behind or didn't get all their change back at during an interaction, an exchange, and like the Thai person has literally followed the person who forgot their thing down just to give it back to them. In Costa Rica, I think things like petty theft, and just like getting things stolen, like if you leave your phone out, or even getting jumped if you have an electronic on you, obviously, is much more likely. So I don't think it's like something to be worried about going around Costa Rica, like you're gonna get robbed all over the place, but I do think that like it's something to be more aware of. So maybe not traveling with electronics out and visible, or making yourself a target, as people say. Whereas in Chiang Mai, that's not really a thing. I don't know about other areas of Thailand. The language. Well, in Costa Rica, the language spoken throughout the land mostly is Spanish, and in Thailand, it's Thai. For me, I have a great advantage living in Costa Rica because I speak Spanish, whereas in Thailand, my Thai is not very good yet. It's very limited, and I'm looking forward to expanding it there. I feel like I'm able to have more full relationships with people here in Costa Rica. Again, that's just been my experience, also because I have more full relationships. I married a Costa Rican some time ago. I have family here. I have a lot of friends and relationships I've developed here, and in general, I just find it easier to connect with the people here. The culture really resonates with me. But it doesn't have to be like it's this way or that way. In Thailand, I feel like I've developed a lot of really sweet connections, and mostly more with foreigners because those have been the people I've been interacting with. But with Thai people too, and yeah, I don't want to say that it's not as easy to make close, loving relationships with Thai people. I just haven't had that experience yet. So I feel more integrated into the culture here, whereas in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, I feel more like, it's not that I don't belong, I really do feel like I live there and I belong, but I feel like my role is still a foreigner. I'm gonna call this category like dress or dress code, not really a dress code, but how comfortable I feel dressing however I want. I think in Costa Rica, I definitely feel more comfortable dressing how I want, wearing like a shirt like this, for example, or short shorts. I had this one experience in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where I was walking through a market and I had on a short skirt and a belly shirt, and like all the women working in the market just started like gabbing about me, and you could just tell, and they were all like looking at me and saying things. And yeah, I started wearing more clothing when I went to the market after that, because I just noticed that like the attention in that way didn't feel good for me, and I didn't feel good about, in a way, I guess, disrupting their market flow, or like the attire that feels good for them to see. It's an interesting realm there, because I do feel like I really want people to be able to express themselves and dress how they want, and also there's some element of like respecting local culture, and it's a mesh. Both things feel important. And overall, I'd say in Costa Rica, that doesn't really come up for me as much. Like, yeah, I do think some people dress, there's a range of people dressing from like more risque to less risque here, you could call it. But it just seems to be less of a thing. Tight clothes, all that stuff, more part of the Latino vibe. Self-care, wow, this is such an important category to me. A lot of self-care that I receive is through connecting with nature. So in Costa Rica, I'm getting a lot of those needs met, whereas in Thailand, I feel like I'm in a more urban environment. There are so many categories of self-care I could list, like even air quality and water quality. I feel like they're part of self-care. Community, what food I'm eating, all that stuff. But one that really comes to mind is like services that I could receive out in the world, self-care services. Thailand takes this for the win, Chiang Mai does, in my opinion, because you can go get massage for $6, like as many times as you want throughout the day, and it's amazing Thai massage. You can go to a sauna for like next to no money, and they're readily available throughout the city. There are Ayurvedic services, there are dentists all over the place. Just getting like health services and those needs met feel so great. It's one of the things I love most about going to Chiang Mai, is getting a ton of massages, and this year I found the sauna and I love it. In Costa Rica, I don't feel like that stuff's as readily available. The dentist might be the one that's most readily available. I have seen a dentist here and it was a nice experience as well. But like, there aren't like massage places every 100 meters, and I haven't seen any saunas advertised. It's just like less a part of the offerings here. Cost overall, I would say Thailand and Chiang Mai much more much less expensive than Costa Rica. Costa Rica is still really affordable in terms of living, especially in comparison with the United States. It's one of the richer countries in Central America, so it definitely costs more to live here than it does in, say, like Nicaragua. But yeah, I think those are all the main categories that I kind of have floating around in my mind when I'm traveling to a new place. I'm sure there was something else that I may have left out. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments down below. If you have any experiences of your own that you'd like to share about these places, feel free to post them down below. I'd love to hear. And if you're interested in living more of this kind of a lifestyle, a nomadic lifestyle, if you're wondering what lifestyle you even want to live, what self-care practices you want to incorporate in your life, I so recommend checking out my program Simplify. It's just all about you finding more about what you desire, what you want, and moving towards it. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Mwah. Bye.